Hello everybody and welcome into Taborda Today. Just going to do a quick show, no intro music for everybody. Talking about the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and a little bit of soccer, of course. We had Boxing Day yesterday. Not a tradition celebrated by people in the US, but of course in the UK it's kind of a big deal. And they've got the saying, bottom of the table on Boxing Day, bottom of the table in May. And we'll also be talking some Champions League. We have the round of 16 matchups. We've got a juicy one between PSG and Chelsea, Man City and Barcelona. We'll be breaking those down as well. But we're going to start in the NFL. It's Week 17, and we have a lot still to be decided. The only thing that's really set in stone is that New England will be the 1 seed in the AFC. Besides that, it's all up in the air at this point. It's tough to say. It's been a up and down year. The NFL has given us a roller coaster. And it just gets so much better this week. I mean, you start off with the Packers and the Lions. This is to decide the NFC North. Potentially, one of these teams could be the 1 seed, depending on how Seattle and Arizona do. It's a pretty significant matchup. Whoever wins this could also be the 2 seed, maybe the 3 seed. We don't really know at this point. It's that kind of year in the NFC, especially. And we'll get started with this one. Just looking at the matchup, of course, it is this gargantuan Packers offense. Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, all being tied together by the man, the myth, the legend, Aaron Rodgers. The guy, he's had an MVP year, and it's interesting. I think that people have actually underrated him because his stats don't look quite as amazing as, take for example, Luck's in terms of touchdowns and passing yards. But what's interesting is the fact that he's had to leave games. I mean, he missed the whole second half of the Bears game due to the fact that they were just dominating them. The Vikings game, he left midway through. The Panthers, he left towards the end as well. I actually went through and I looked at how many touchdowns he probably would put up. You know, he probably would have at least gotten another 5 or 6 touchdowns alone in those games. That would have put him over Andrew Luck, at least. I mean, maybe he picks up another interception. But that would have still put him, 6 interceptions is still one of the lowest. 2 lower than Romo, 2 lower than Big Ben. Plus those 5, 6 extra touchdowns. He's at 41. That's 2 more than Manning. That's a pretty significant number, not to mention he would have picked up a couple extra 100 yards. He would have put himself right up there with the best of them in terms of yardage as well. I think that's what's most impressive, that he's putting up these numbers, but he's not actually playing the whole game. He's just got out and dominated so much that the backup has had to come in a couple of times now. I mean, Flynn came in, and he doesn't do much, obviously, but they don't need him to. Rodgers has put them in a position to win. Now, you go to the other side, you get Matthew Stafford. The guy is 7th in the league in passing yards. 4,040 on the year. However, when it comes to touchdowns and interceptions, he's thrown 12 picks this year. Not too bad. I mean, for a guy that a lot of people associated with tons and tons of turnovers, you can go down the list of people who've thrown more than him. Cutler, Bortles, Rivers, Luck, Peyton Manning even, Andy Dalton, Breeze, and McCown, Manning, and Hoyer. That's not saying much, but there are a lot of quality quarterbacks that have thrown more interceptions than him. So, to a certain extent, I applaud him for, getting those turnover numbers down. But the touchdown numbers haven't been very high either. Only 19 touchdowns on the year. That's significantly lower, and part of that had to do with the fact that Calvin Johnson, Megatron, was not in the game most of the time. A couple of injuries really hurt Stafford, but you saw it last week. He's going up against a Bears secondary, one of the worst in the NFL. A secondary and defense that the Packers shredded. And they almost lost that game to a backup quarterback. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that Stafford was just abysmal. There's no way around it. He played horribly. it was one of the worst games I've seen him play. I mean, he ended up with 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, and 243 yards on 56% completion. That's his worst completion percentage on the year, barring the loss to New England, which was a horrible game as well. 2 interceptions ties his season high, and he had no touchdowns. It was a bad game for Matt Stafford, and he's going to definitely need to rebound because you have to put up points against the Packers. Their defense is great. I'll give them credit for that, but they're going to Lambeau now. Even the best defenses will get scored on. Stafford, if the Lions want a chance to win, is going to have to put points on the board. He's going to have to get the ball to his wide receivers, Megatron, Golden Tate, even Joseph Oria, I guess, occasionally. Eric Ebron, if he has to. He's going to have to find the open man, and he's going to need help from Reggie Bush. He's going to need help from Joique Bell, Theo Riddick. He's going to need them to have good games, and if it wasn't for Reggie Bush in that Lions game, or in the Bears game, the Lions most likely would have lost that game. Reggie Bush scored a couple of key touchdowns, and he really helped them get over the hump. Had Jimmy Clausen not taken that dirty hit, he may have been able to lead the Bears down the field. Of course, when you are concussed, it's harder, I guess. I mean, that's a fair assumption, to lead your team down the field against one of the more aggressive Lions secondaries, or front sevens. Their secondary has been, I think, a lot better than people expected. When you got a guy like Abdul Qaddus back there, you normally expect the team to get kind of shredded, but they've held their own, and I think that's the thing about the Lions defense. While their front seven is what makes them such a formidable defense, DeAndre Levy up there unfortunately didn't make it to the Pro Bowl. Definitely deserving. I think that guy was probably the heart and soul. I think Sue is probably the best defender, but I think Levy was really the driving force. I mean, you look at this defense, first in opposing rushing yards, 13th in opposing passing yards. So it's the front seven that makes the difference. However, their secondary has kept itself baseline, and I think that's the big key. The problem last year was their secondary was horrible. They couldn't stop somebody. Even if they had put everybody back there, they wouldn't have stopped anybody in the passing game. And this year, though they aren't an elite secondary, they're a secondary that holds their own and keeps the team in the game and doesn't lose the game for them. And I think that's the big difference. I think that's really helped this Lions D, because I think you can't just have a good running game, especially in the NFC where you've got Breeze and you've got Rodgers. Cam Newton is good as well. The Eagles' passing attack, just lots of quick screens. Macklin is an elite wide receiver over there. Even the Giants occasionally can mix it up, especially with Odell Beckham Jr. now. So you need to have a solid pass defense, and I think the Lions have much improved that, and I think that's made a big difference, especially in allowing their front seven to create a pass rush. So I applaud them for that. When it comes to the Packers, I think they did a similar thing in terms of defense. Not quite to the same extent. Obviously, they don't have quite the elite defense, but you look at opposing passing yards, they're up to 10th there. Opponent rushing yards, they have struggled, but they have improved their defense as well. I mean, they already had an elite level offense. So I think it's a big deal both these teams improve defense. I think both of these teams are threats come playoff time because of that improved defense. Detroit's big issue for me is that they just aren't a good offensive team this year. In terms of rushing yard, they're 27th. Passing yards, they are 11th, and they turned the ball over quite a bit. It's not going to cut it against Seattle. Even against Arizona with Ryan Lindley or Logan Thomas, it just won't cut it. You can't have these silly turnovers. You have to be able to score. You have to be able to take advantage of your opportunities. Otherwise, Seattle will gut you. They will do what they did to Arizona to you, and worse, if you give them the chance. So Detroit needs to tighten up. Detroit needs to tighten up. They are good at escaping close games. I mean, they escaped New York. They escaped New Orleans. They escaped Atlanta and New Orleans consecutive weeks by 1, and then they won on a game-winning touchdown right after the bye against Miami. So they know how to escape close games. They escaped Minnesota by 2. They escaped Chicago by 6. They escape in close games. But, I mean, the list I just read you, none of the teams I just read you are elite-level teams. Miami's a good team, but none of them are great. You saw the game against Arizona. They lost 14-6. Their offense was manhandled, and though their defense played well, they couldn't score. Against New England, 34-9. Against another good defensive team in Buffalo, 17-14, and then they lost to Carolina early on in the season. But notice a trend in the games they've lost. They scored 7, 14, 6, and 9. It's a lack of offense. It's a lack of scoring. You need to score against good teams. And that's why I think going to the Green Bay game, I don't think they're going to be able to pull it out. I think the Packers defense has enough. They're one of the best turnover teams, and that's Stafford's worst fear. I think the Packers are going to be able to force 1 or 2 interceptions, and I think that's the key. I think the Lions can go and score maybe 17 points at most, because I think they're going to turn the ball over too much. I think their offense has been way too inconsistent. If they run the ball, they'll have a little more success, maybe get into the 20s. But I think the Packers' offense will be on the field a lot, and I think that's going to cause a lot of issues for the defense, because eventually the defense is going to get tired. And I think Rodgers throws for 2 or 3 touchdowns, gets Lacey involved in the mix. I think the Packers pick up the win at Lambeau, 28-2. I'm going to say, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll say that the running game does well. I'm going to go 28-20. The Packers win. I think the Packers, though, despite the score, have more of a dominant performance. And I think this is a big measuring stick for the Packers, who I think have lost a little bit of... I think some people have lost a little bit of faith after the Buffalo game, where they really struggled. I mean, they went from top of the world after beating New England. They had a bad second half against Atlanta, and they lost to Buffalo. And suddenly, they are no longer the team to beat. Seattle is. And this is actually something that I really want to just touch on really quickly. How we can go from one team to another so quickly amazes me. Now Seattle is suddenly, people are talking about Seattle as they could be the greatest team of all time. Wasn't it just like 3 weeks ago that you said that we're not even sure how good the Seahawks are? They proved it, sure, but to say now that they're the greatest team of all time, these are some really big jumps. I mean, you were going back a couple of weeks ago. The Packers, after beating the Patriots, were the outright Super Bowl favorites. There's no way they can't make it. Now there is, apparently. But if the Packers are at home, they'll probably win. And if the Seahawks are at home, they probably will win. The question is, do they meet each other at any point in the playoffs? And at what point? I'm not going to get that far into it. I will give my Super Bowl picks in a second. But really quickly, we'll jump to the NFC South and talk about the, NFC South title game. Kind of like the Packers against the Lions, except significantly less exciting. Panthers, Falcons. Panthers are 6-1. The Falcons are 6-9. I'm going to be honest, I hope the Panthers win, because 7-8-1, I'd much rather 7-8-1 than a 7-9. It's a little bit of a better record. It always makes it look a bit better. But to be honest, this has been a really bad division. And it's been a really bad year, especially for a division that had 2 playoff teams last year. Both the Panthers and the Saints were both good teams. Unfortunately, both of them were eliminated early. The Saints, or both of them, I believe, actually same round. Yeah, Saints to the Seahawks, Panthers to the Niners, same round elimination. Neither of them were able to make it to the conference title game, even though the Panthers did have home field advantage against the 49ers. But this time we've got Panthers and the Falcons. Matt Ryan and Julio Jones versus Luke Kuechly and Cam Newton and Kelvin Benjamin. You look at the Falcons this year, passing offense has been terrific. 5th best. Julio Jones has been a big part of that. Last week they picked up a key win